Sullivan here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a spoiler talk for Captain America Civil War. Obviously there's going to be spoilers in this video, and we're talking about very spoilerific kind of things, so specific characters, specific moments and scenes in the film. So if you want to know my general kind of overall thoughts on the film, be sure to check out my spoiler-free review. But like I said, in this video we're talking spoilers. So yeah, let's not waste any more time and let's just get straight into this. And for the first thing I'm going to talk about is the opening battle at the beginning of the film in Lagos in Nigeria. And I thought this was a great scene. I mean, there's so many great action sequences in this film. Everyone's raving about the airport battle, and rightly so, because it's an amazing action sequence. But there's so many incredible action sequences throughout this film. I would argue that every single one is just amazing, and honestly, I love it. I would even go as far as to say this is probably got the best action sequences of any comic book movie ever. I'm not going to go as far as to say that any action film or any film ever, but in any comic book movie, I think this definitely has the best kind of fight choreography and action sequences out of any superhero film I've seen anyway. I mean, it's just so incredible. And the opening battle is one of those as well. It's great because we just get straight into the action there. We get to see for the first time the new Avengers working together for the very first time as this kind of like cohesive unit. We see Cap there obviously leading the team. You've got Black Widow there as well. Falcon there, so Cap's right hand man back. I love Falcon in the Winter Soldier, but there he just had the wings and he could fly, but then here he's got so much more. He's got like an upgraded suit now on this advanced technology, as well as like the wings. He's also got kind of this bulletproof shielding on the wings as well, which is just so cool. So we can use them as like shields when he's flying or when he's on the ground, like to deflect bullets and stuff. And it's just so cool. And he's got like missiles, and he's got the red wing as well, which I thought was a great addition, because obviously in the comics it's like a bird and he can control it like telepathically and that. But I think it made so much sense doing it as like a drone, and obviously this film's very much kind of set in like a grounded real world kind of setting, and the fact that they made it like a bird-like kind of surveillance drone I thought was really cool. There's a really great touch there. And then Scarlet Witch as well, she's kind of like the rookie on the team, like the newbie. She's still kind of learning to control her powers. It's just so cool because even though it's like a Captain America film, so it kind of feels very grounded and gritty and down to earth. It's just so cool seeing Scarlet Witch with her like magical powers as well, and it's you just buy into it because the Russos did such a great job of grounding this film, both the Winter Soldier and this film, in making it feel like it was just set in the real world. Even though you see all these larger than life fantastical things going on, you just buy into it because it just all works so well. And you just seeing Scarlet Witch using her powers, and she can do like more things now. She's got kind of a greater degree of control, but she still hasn't gained complete control over her abilities. Like that bit when you see her just taking the gas out of the building there. Like, I just love it. It's just so cool. I love like the hand movements, and just Elizabeth Olsen just does such a great job in the role. I really liked her in Age of Ultron, but here they kind of flesh her character out a bit more and give her like more to do. She hasn't got a massive part in the film, but I loved all the scenes she was in, and of course the scenes she has with Vision, and how they kind of like developed her character a bit more. You get to understand more of like who she is and how she's feeling and what she's going through, like struggling to kind of grasp control of her abilities. Of course, she's the one who kind of causes that inciting incident in the beginning of the film, which the building blows up, and she's like trying to like stop the explosion that Crossbones sets off, and then it ends up going into the building. That whole action sequence at the beginning of the film I just thought was great. It was just a great way to open the film, just get straight into there, seeing the new Avengers in action together for the first time. Each of them had something to do, and every time we changed to a new hero, it was just so awesome seeing them in action because they're all so different from one another. See Falcon like the flying and kicking, and Scarlet Witch with the magical hex powers, and then Captain America with the jumping and the flipping and running, and then Black Widow. Oh my god, I was like I've always been a fan of Black Widow. I love what Joss Whedon did with her in the Avengers movies, but I like the Russos' handling of her as a character even more so. I loved her in the Winter Soldier, how they developed her more as a character, fleshed her out, and then here as well. Oh my god, she's probably got some of the best kind of hand-to-hand fight sequences in the film, and in the opening battle, oh my god, it's just so great to watch. It's almost like she's like kind of like a female born Captain America, like mashed together in one. It's just great. The fight choreography is just so well done. You can tell that the Russos brought the John Wick directors on board, because you can tell there's like an influence there from them. I won't be surprised if they even helmed that opening action sequence. I know they helped a lot with the action and the fight choreography, and it's just so great seeing Black Widow in action, because she's always had cool fight sequences, but the fight sequences she has in this film are just so incredible. They're really full-on, hard-hitting and intense. Like, she's just taking down all these guys left, right and centre, like, and it's just so cool to watch. Now on to the characters I really liked. I'm going to start with Scarlet Witch and Vision. Scarlet Witch I've already touched upon. I just love how the Russos and the writers Marcus and McFeely handled Scarlet Witch and Vision in this film, because I was worried they might kind of feel out of place or not really fit into the story very well, but they crafted both of the two characters into the story really well. They weren't underutilised, they weren't wasted, they weren't just pushed to the side. They gave a surprising amount of time and attention onto them. Like I said, they don't have that much to do, but the scenes that they do get together are just really great. I love the scenes that they have together in the film. I love Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. I think she does an even better job here than she did in Age of Ultron, because she kind of her character's kind of developed a bit more now, and she's got a little bit more to do, and her character's grown a lot more since the events of Age of Ultron. And the relationship with Vision as well, I'm really glad they found a way of kind of interworking that into the film, because obviously that's a really big part of the comics. And it made so much sense as well, because I was worried how they're going to do it, how they're going to explain this kind of burgeoning romance between the two of them and the relationship they have together. But it was done so well, because obviously in Age of Ultron they have a couple of glances at one another, but they never really kind of talk or interact. As soon as they have the first scene together in this film, you just buy into it straight away. It all makes so much sense. The Paprikash scene, I really like. I mean, just seeing them talking, and Vision's talking about the Infinity Stone in his head and how he kind of doesn't really know what it is, and he can't control it, it kind of controls him, and the fact that it gave Scarlet Witch her abilities and they kind of have that connection, that kind of deep, profound connection in that way through the Infinity Stone. And I love how they were able to do that and have this relationship there between the two of them that felt real, and that you understood and didn't feel false or didn't feel out of place. And both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany just sold it really well. You bought into the fact that they have this kind of deep love and care for one another. Vision especially, because Scarlet Witch is kind of she doesn't really want to be there. She's trying to leave the compound, and you just really feel for Vision, because you can tell he's got this deep love and care for Scarlet Witch, and he really doesn't want to let her go. The scene that comes later on when Scarlet Witch makes a stand and just fights back, it's like, no, I'm leaving, Vision. And that was such a great scene, because we get to see that Vision isn't the most powerful one, as we all might have suspected. It's actually Scarlet Witch. She can actually overpower Vision. It was such a cool moment. It's glimpsed briefly in the trailers, but we get to see Scarlet Witch using her powers, because obviously they had that talk earlier on about the Infinity Stone and how they're connected in that kind of way. She kind of uses the Infinity Stone to kind of mess with his power, so to speak. You see her go when the Infinity Stone goes red, and he suddenly goes more intangible. Hawkeye falls away, and then what I noticed seeing at multiple watches, that she does that, she's able to make him go really intangible, and then just makes him denser and denser and denser until she just destroys him, sends him flying down through the building. It's such a cool moment there. Okay, now the next character I'm going to be talking about is, of course, Spider-Man. Now everybody's raving about how amazing Spider-Man is, no pun intended, in this film, and I would say that he is. It is spectacular, pun intended. We had the Amazing Spider-Man. This is the spectacular Spider-Man. Let's put it that way, yeah. I mean, I'll put it this way. I like the other Spider-Man films we had. Some were better than others. Obviously Spider-Man 3 wasn't very good. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was probably the worst. I didn't mind Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 was definitely the best. But then, even though the original Spider-Man films I grew up with those films, but I was never really sold on Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I don't know why, because everybody else loved him as Spider-Man, but I just never really saw him as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I don't know why. I thought Andrew Garfield was a good enough Spider-Man. He did a pretty good job what he was given, but after I saw this film, it dawned upon me. The reason why they never nailed the character before was because they didn't cast someone who was the right age. I'm sorry, but the first time we get to see somebody playing the character who's actually the same age as the character. I mean, it's why could they have never done that before? He's a teenage character, and yet they cast actors in their late 20s, nearly 30 to play the role. And I think that's why it never worked before as well as it did here, because here they cast a teenager. He was about Tom Holland, he was about 19, I think. And obviously Spider-Man's meant to be about 15, 16, I think, in the film. And it was so great because for the first time, we all got to see a Peter Parker and Spider-Man who was actually like a kid, you know, because that's what he's supposed to be. That's what's so great about Spider-Man. That's what sets him apart from all these other heroes who are much older and more experienced. He, on the other hand, is just an excitable, nerdy kid. He was just, and it was just so great to see. And Tom Holland absolutely killed it in the role. So I was a little worried. I think he's a good actor. I haven't seen him in a whole lot of other stuff. He was in The Impossible when he was younger. I saw him in the Heart of the Sea film with Chris Hemsworth. I mean, it was a pretty mediocre movie. I mean, he did a good enough job of what he was given, but he didn't really get the chance to shine in that film. But whereas here, he did. He was so great. The cast did so well. Tom Holland did such a great job in the role. Because even though there were past Spider-Man films that I liked, the original Spider-Man film and Spider-Man 2, as soon as Tom Holland came on screen, it was a little it threw me off a little bit at first. But then it only took like 2 seconds, and then I was suddenly like, oh my god, this is Peter Parker. Honestly, it was so well written, it was so well performed, it was a fresh, new, young interpretation of the character that was so good, it just made you forget about other past versions of the character. That's how good this new interpretation was, and it was just embodied so brilliantly by Tom Holland in his performance. He just really knocked it out of the park. We'll go to about the scene with him and Tony in his bedroom. Honestly, it was such a great scene, probably one of the best scenes in the film, and again, it's just a dialogue scene between Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. It just works so well. I think they get along well in real life. They had some great chemistry together, and it was just such a great scene, and I just love that scene because for the first time, for me anyway, that scene just perfectly summed up who Peter Parker and Spider-Man is, more so than any of the other past incarnations of the character have been able to do. Honestly, in just like one line of dialogue, you just got it. I've been me my whole life. I read these powers for 6 months, and I read books, I build computers. And sure, I'd love to play football, but I couldn't then, so I shouldn't now. Right, because you're different. Yeah, but I can't tell anyone that, so I'm not. And I was like, oh, that is Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Oh, it was just so great. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yes, that's it. And I just loved that scene because it just, for me, it just summed up who Peter Parker really is, and I think it was just a perfectly eloquent encapsulation of the character, and it just summed up the whole Peter Parker Spider-Man dilemma so well. It was great. The back and forth between him and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and the relationship they have there, and I think it worked really well. I think it made sense as well because from what Tony's going through in the film, and then he comes across this kid who was kind of like him. He started off, as this kind of like scientific prodigy, this boy genius, but obviously Peter Parker had a kind of poor upbringing, whereas Tony had a kind of rich, wealthy background, and how he's able to they're able to relate to one another, and he wants to help him, and how Stark makes him the new Spider-Man suit. It just made so much sense, because if he was this poor kid from Queens, he wouldn't be able to make this fancy, super duper Spider-Man suit, would he? I love the fact that he has this kind of like rubbish homemade suit, and then Tony Stark comes in and makes him this really cool upgraded Spider-Man suit. And also Spider-Man's presence in the airport battle is just perfect. He's like the wisecracking chatterbox from the comics you know and love, and his interactions with the other characters are just gold. It's just so great and so funny seeing him interact with all these other characters. And it's so refreshing as well, because he's so different from all these other heroes, so much older, more experienced. He's just kind of a young, nerdy, excitable kid who's just having the time of his life, and it's just so much fun to watch. He's just happy to be there, and it's just so great. Marvel really knocked it out of the park, because there was a danger that it might not have been that great. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of faith in Marvel and Kevin Feige, but the fact that we had so many different versions of Spider-Man in the past over the last few years, I was like, is this going to work? But Marvel just really know their characters, and they know how to do it properly, and as soon as we got their version of Spider-Man, it's like, that's it, that is the proper Spider-Man, finally. What took so long? However, as much as I like Spider-Man in this film, and as great as he was, my favourite new character, I would say, has to be Black Panther. I absolutely love Black Panther. I'm such a big fan of Black Panther as a character, and I have been for years. I remember watching him in the cartoons, animated films, really hoping that one day we'd see him on the big screen. And I remember back in 2014, and it was like rumoured the mystery Marvel film would be Black Panther, and I was like, oh yes, and then it was announced Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, no! Why are they giving this like a tree and a space raccoon instead of Black Panther? But in the end, I wasn't that annoyed because Guardians of the Galaxy turned out absolutely awesome, so, you know. But we are getting Black Panther now. A bit annoyed it's been pushed back to 2018, but at least we got to see him in this amazing debut in Civil War, and it was just so great, so incredibly well done, because I was worried, oh, is it going to work, them introducing him in this like ensemble film with all these other heroes, is that going to work? But it worked so incredibly well. How they integrated him into the plot, and how he played a really pivotal part in the story, it just made so much sense, and it worked so well. Again, I was worried, are they going to be able to handle Black Panther as well as I want them to, and they did such a great job. Chadwick Boseman, oh my god. Before, when they were casting Black Panther, I never thought about Chadwick Boseman. He wasn't my first choice that came to mind, but oh my god, he absolutely nailed it. I'm so glad they cast him. Marvel just do such a great job with their castings, and Chadwick Boseman just is Black Panther. Oh my god, he did such a great job. As soon as you see him on screen and he starts speaking, you're like, that is T'Challa, that is Black Panther. You genuinely believed he was that character. It wasn't like watching Chadwick Boseman, the actor. It was just like watching Black Panther, the character, and I am so incredibly excited for the Black Panther film, directed by Ryan Coogler, who did Creed, which came out last year, that I absolutely loved that film, and the direction, how it was filmed. So I cannot wait to see what Ryan Coogler is going to be doing with Black Panther. Maybe get Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o. It's going to be so great. Obviously, it's not coming out until 2018, which is a little annoying. But like I said, it was so great that we got this just amazing debut in Civil War, and that he played surprisingly quite a bigger part as well. Because Spider-Man, as great as he was in like we have one scene of Peter Parker and then one scene of Spider-Man. But Black Panther, he's really in the entire film. He's like there from beginning to end, really, and it was great because we've got these two opposing sides led by Cap and Tony, and Black Panther's kind of like, he's on his own side. He's working off his own agendas, and he's got his own mission that drives him through the film there. He's like on this kind of a revenge-fueled quest that, you know, drives him through the plot, and it's just such a great character arc that he has, and the journey that he goes on from beginning to end, and that drives him throughout the plot. How he goes from like starting off in this like revenge-fueled quest to destroy the Winter Soldier, and how he ends up, he has a very kind of like noble conclusion to his arc when he realises that Zemo is the one to blame, not the Winter Soldier, and he has that speech at the end with Zemo, which I really liked, about the whole vengeance thing, and it was so great because whereas Tony lets vengeance consume him, and he's out for blood against Bucky, because obviously he killed his parents, so he's going to be in a fury of blinded rage and anger. But whereas Black Panther, when he comes to realise that it wasn't the Winter Soldier who caused the death of his father, and it was Zemo, he comes to let go of this kind of vengeance, and he learns to kind of forgive and not, you know, let vengeance consume him. And that speech at the end was like, vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me. Oh, it's just so great. I loved it. Chadwick Boseman sold it really well, and I thought it was a great end to his arc in the film. And another thing that I really liked associated with Black Panther is the whole kind of Wakanda aspect. We didn't actually get to see Wakanda, but Wakandans and Wakanda does play a part in this film. We do get to see T'Challa's father, T'Chaka, briefly before he's killed. And even though it wasn't exactly like how it happens in the comics, I think in the comics it's Claw that kills him, but even though I thought it was a little odd they didn't go down that route, because the whole kind of introducing Andy Serkis as Claw in Age of Ultron, I assumed that was the path they were going to go down, but they didn't. But I'm not too annoyed because it did work so well having the death of T'Chaka in this film and having that relate to the whole Winter Soldier Civil War kind of aspect of the film, and that being what gets Black Panther into the plot and involves him in the story. And obviously it still has the death of T'Chaka, it's still like the comics in that way, it's just, it wasn't by the same person. Having involved Wakanda in this film, I think was really cleverly done, because obviously stolen vibranium from Wakanda was used by Ultron in Age of Ultron, and I love the fact that they use that as the reason that gets T'Chaka and the Wakandans to come out of Wakanda, because they're a notoriously kind of reclusive, secretive nation, and that's even mentioned in this film that it wasn't until what went down the Age of Ultron, with Ultron using this stolen vibranium that made them come out to the world and okay, we need to make our presence known, we need to involve ourselves here. I think that was really cleverly interwoven into the plot, that it was the events from Age of Ultron, the stolen vibranium and all that got the Wakandans to come out of Wakanda, and obviously the Wakandans that were killed in Lagos in the beginning of the film, and that's kind of what gave them the impulse to kind of intervene as well. Because I was initially kind of perplexed as to how they were going to involve Black Panther and the Wakandans and all of that into the plot, but they did it so well in a way that just felt natural and made sense. And they didn't have to waste time introducing all these characters and giving us long backstories and origins, and we just got it straight away. And I'm really excited now to see what they're going to be doing with Black Panther in his solo film. I can't wait for that. Okay, now onto one of the really big talking points about this film, and that is the character of Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl. A lot of people are mixed about this. Some people think he's a great villain, one of the best Marvel villains we've ever had. A lot of people are saying, oh, the villain's rubbish and one of the worst things about the film, and really lets the film down. I personally think the villain is really good. I don't know if it's one of the best villains Marvel's ever done, but I really like the character of Zemo in this film because he wasn't like a traditional stereotypical villain that we've seen so many times before in all these Marvel films. Because some of the other villains we've had in the Marvel films, they're very kind of flamboyant and showy and extravagant and over the top, but what I really liked and really appreciated about Zemo was that he wasn't really this big over-the-top supervillain. He was a regular guy, and he had clear reasons and motivations as to why he was doing what he was doing, and you got it and you understood. He lost his family at the hands of the Avengers. His wife, his father, his child were all killed. His home was practically destroyed and the Avengers just left, and he felt betrayed by the Avengers. He wanted to get back at them, and I love the fact that he knew himself that he wasn't powerful enough to be able to take them on physically and destroy them, so he hatched up this kind of like devious, meticulous master plan to try and tear them apart from the inside and to turn them against each other. I think it was really well written. I think it was really well performed by Daniel Bruhl, and like I said, I think a lot of people are criticising it because they're expecting this much bigger villain. I think he will become something bigger down the line. I think he will come back as the classic Baron Zemo we know from the comics with the mask and that. Maybe we'll see him leading a Masters of Evil team in the near future. But what I liked about him in this film, it was kind of like an origin story for his character. He hadn't really become the supervillain yet. It was about this guy who had lost so much, and he was really angry and vengeful and wanted to destroy the Avengers and tear them apart. He didn't want to kill them. He didn't want to destroy the world or take over the world or anything like this, like all the other Marvel villains. He wanted to tear the Avengers apart, to get them to turn them on each other and to get them to destroy each other. His ambitions were much smaller and more personal, and I really like that because it made him a villain who was much more subtle and understated than any other villain we've ever had in the Marvel films. And I think people aren't really giving it credit for that, because they could have so easily done this really big, extravagant, over-the-top supervillain for them to all team up and take on, and I thought that's what we were going to get. I thought we were going to get this supervillain who was going to be wanting to take over the world and destroy the world, and they were going to have to team up to take him on at the end. But they didn't go down that route. They went down the route of the villain being a guy who wanted to tear the Avengers apart. He wanted to get them to turn on each other, and so the final battle is Cap versus Tony, and we don't get the Avengers fighting these other Winter Soldiers, which you think that was the route they were going to take, and that was kind of like a red herring. As soon as we got that, I was like, oh damn it, they're going to do that now, aren't they? We're going to have them all team up taking on these Winter Soldiers, and I wouldn't have minded that. Probably would have been a pretty cool fight, but I'm so glad they didn't go down that route, and they went down the route of the Avengers turning on each other, and the final battle being a much more personal fight between the Avengers, and how Zemo was able to orchestrate that, turning them against each other. I thought it was so well done. I thought he was a great villain. I don't think he was as great a villain as say Loki was, but he was a very different kind of villain, and I really liked that and really appreciated it, and I thought Daniel Bruhl did a great job. So yeah, that's what I had to say about Zemo. Okay, the next aspect of the film that I'm going to be talking about is the relationship between Cap and Tony, and the sides that they choose and the arguments that they have. I thought it was done so well, because even though they might not pick the sides that you expect based on previous films, it just makes so much sense. And the reasons that they give behind, why they choose the sides that they do, and the arguments that they both have against one another for why they're choosing that side, it just all works so well. Because, like I said, they were very different characters, and they're their very first films, like Tony Stark in Iron Man 1 is very different to the Tony Stark we have here, and Captain America in the first Avengers is very different to the Captain America we have here, and I really like that because it shows that they've grown and evolved and have changed over these films as a result of these events that have occurred, and how, you know, these exterior forces have affected them and the choices that they make. You wouldn't expect Cap to go against the government based on what the first film, because he starts off as like this patriotic kind of poster boy for the army, and then he ends up becoming a military insurgent. And like Tony, he really doesn't like the government. He's going against the authority all the time, and then in this film he's siding with the government. But even though they're completely changed to how they were in their very first films, what I really like is that they're still the same in their attitudes, and how they act and how they behave is still the same. It's just that their opinions have changed. So Cap's changed from trusting the government to going against the government, but yet he's still got this kind of morally just, righteous attitude. And Tony has changed from being against the government to going with the government, but he's still got this kind of egotistical, kind of selfish, arrogant attitude. So they've still kind of kept their kind of characteristics and personalities they've become known for, but they've just changed their minds on pursuing a different path, and I really liked how they did that. First off, let's talk about Tony. I think Tony's motivations were really well realised in this film, because I am Team Cap. I've always been Team Cap and always will be Team Cap, but I love what they did with the character of Tony Stark in this film. You understood why he's feeling the way he does, and why he feels guilty, why he feels responsible, and then ultimately why he decides to side with registering with the government. Because you get that scene early on in the film, that mother who lost her son, and now she's like blaming Stark, like, you murdered him in Sokovia, I'm blaming you. And you really feel for Tony, like, wow. And then she even says that line where it's like, you think you fight for us, you only fight for yourself. And you just see that look into his face, and I really liked how that was a callback to the Avengers when Captain America says to Tony, you're not a real hero, you've seen the footage, you only fight for yourself. And it's like, I don't think many people ever picked up on that, but that line that she says to Tony is exactly the same as the line that Cap says to Tony in the Avengers. The exact same line, you only fight for yourself. And you just see that look in Tony's face, like, no, like, I changed. I'm not the man I was. And you just so get why he's made up his mind about siding with the government, because he's like, right, enough is enough. We've caused too much trouble. We've caused too much catastrophe and death. We've got to be more responsible here, and we've got to side with the government. We've got to be put into check and be controlled, because a lot of the things that have happened have been a result of Tony. Pretty much all the villains in the Iron Man films are a result of Tony. A lot of the villains in the Avengers films are a result of Tony, Ultron being the most notable. So it's like, you understand why Tony's feeling the way he does. He's still got that sense of humour and that wit that but he's not the big kind of carefree, kind of showy, extravagant playboy from previous films. You can tell that he's grown, and he's gotten older now, and he's starting to look back and think, maybe we should be controlled and be told what to do. And you just get it, and it makes so much sense. He's changed now. He's kind of like this broken man in this film. He's lost Pepper. They've had this split. He's at his lowest of his lows, and you understand where he's coming from. And he's always been quite an emotionally unstable character. He's never really let his emotions out, but in this film he's more unstable than he's ever been. Obviously, we get the finale at the end of the film, which he kind of completely breaks down, lets everything out, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, I just love how they handled Tony Stark in this film, and I think he did such a great job. And once again, Robert Downey Jr. absolutely killed it. He continues to remind us why he's so good and why he's just a perfect fit for this character. Honestly, I know comic book movies never get nominated for awards, but honestly, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this film, I would say, in a lot of scenes, is kind of Oscar worthy. And the scene when he's just talking with Cap in that room, the scene at the end when he learns that Bucky killed his parents, and you just see that look in his face, and he looks at Cap. Honestly, and it's not even any dialogue, it's just all looks and of facial expressions and body movements, and it's so great. And Robert Downey Jr., he just absolutely killed it. On to Cap and his motivations. Like I said, I am Team Cap. And it was so great, because there was a danger of Cap being overshadowed by a lot of these other heroes, but it was still very much his film. He was the main character. It was all revolving around him. He was the character at the centre of it, driving the film. Cap's motivations for why he chooses the side that he does was so well done as well, just similarly as well done as Iron Man. and because this unbreakable bond he has with his former world that he lost. And we get that great scene just after the talk about the Accords with the Avengers, when they're arguing about which side to choose, and we see, that Peggy dies and he goes to her funeral, and I just absolutely love that scene. I think some people have said, oh, it seems a little out of place, it wasn't necessary, but I would argue that it was a very pivotal scene in the film and a very important moment that needed to be there. It was really the only scene in the film that I was getting me tearing up, especially the second time, funny enough. And I think it was such a beautiful scene. Chris Evans played it beautifully. It was so emotional as well. Him losing Peggy. Of course, we get Sharon Carter giving the speech, and how she says the words from the Civil War comic, which Captain America actually says to Spider-Man in the comic. I really like how they worked that into the film. I didn't know if those lines and that speech was going to be in the film or not, but the way in which they interworked it into the film through it being Peggy's words read out by Sharon Carter at her funeral, I think was so great. Maybe even better than if they had Captain America do it, because it just works so well as it being words from Peggy, and then Cap at the funeral hearing these words and listening to them. It was kind of like reassurance for him. He was like, yes, come on, I'm going to stand and I'm going to fight. Everyone's saying this is right, but it's wrong, and I'm going to stand and fight for what I believe is right. And I love that he got the reassurance in what he believed from Peggy, even after she'd passed, and it was just such a great scene. After the loss of Peggy, he's then fighting even more so to hold on to Bucky, because he's his last remaining thing alive from his former world, which everything from that past life has gone apart from Bucky now, and he's his lifelong childhood friend, and how he's like fighting to protect him and keep him alive. It was so powerful because, Cap has got this kind of steadfast nature that you'll never stop, you'll never give up. And even when Bucky's in the Winter Soldier mode, he's full on in villain mode, killing people, Cap's still fighting to protect him. Even when Bucky's fighting him, he's still fighting to hold on to him, to hold on to his friend, because he believes that he can save him, that he can pull him back from the brink and bring his old friend back. And it was just so powerful. Like that scene when Bucky breaks out after he's been put into Winter Soldier mode by Zemo, and he's escaping in a helicopter, and Cap just won't let him go. He's holding on to him and he doesn't want to let him go. And it's just such a great scene, so powerful as well. Really powerful symbolism, just holding on to the helicopter, like, he's just so, like, protective over Bucky, so wants to hold on to his friend, to bring him back, to save his friend, and it's just so great. And I also love the bit after they fall into the water, when you see Cap just take Bucky out of the water, and it's such a nice moment how that harkened back to the Winter Soldier, because a lot of the time you get these dialogue bites about how Cap and Bucky would do everything for each other. Cap would do for Bucky what he would do for him, and in this film we see that proven, because obviously in the last Cap film, The Winter Soldier, we see Bucky rescue Steve from the water, and we get a really nice mirror image of that, but Cap rescuing Bucky from the water, and it's just so great. I absolutely loved it. Go back onto Cap and Tony. Some of my favourite scenes in the film were the Cap and Tony dialogue scenes. As great as the action was, and I absolutely love the action sequences, but I really admired and respected the dialogue scenes in this film, and the dialogue scenes between just Cap and Tony. Obviously we get the scene at the beginning when the Avengers are all arguing and talking about the Accords, but I really like, one of my favourite scenes in the film is the scene about halfway through, I think it is, and we just have Cap and Tony in this room together talking, and it's just so great. The characters are just so well written and so well performed, and we just buy into it, and we're really invested, and we just really understand the conflict and the tension and the relationship between the two of them, how they like one another, they're friends, they've had this bond for a while now, but they're so different. Like they're friends, they're on the same side, but at the same time they're such different characters. They're such polar opposites, and they think such different things, and it's kind of a heartbreaking relationship in a way, because like I said, they have been on the same side in the past. They are both heroes that have fought together for the same thing, but at the same time they are such different characters, such different people, and then how they showed the contrasting ideologies and differences in character between the two of them. It was just so fantastically well done, especially in this scene. Like I said, I just love the dialogue and the back and forth between the two of them. And I also love how the Russos and Marcus and McFeely reference past films and kind of made those films better. It was the same with Winter Soldier. For me, Winter Soldier made the first Captain America better, made the Avengers better, made Iron Man 2 better, and it was the same with this one. It makes like Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron better. It kind of makes them more important, and it makes them make sense more and more worthwhile, like how it references Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron when Tony's talking to Cap about, yeah, I almost lost Pepper, so I ditched all my suits, but then we had some upper Hydra and Ultron, and I didn't stop, because I don't want to stop, but I don't want to lose her, and it's just so great, because the ending of Iron Man 3, it ends with Tony being dedicated to Pepper and wants to have a life with her. He destroys all of his suits, and yet Age of Ultron, he's back being Iron Man straight away, and that was never really explained. But in this film, just that one brilliantly written line, it all makes sense. It clears up the whole ending of Iron Man 3, how it goes from that to Age of Ultron, and it clears it all up, and how Tony says, you know, I wanted to be with her, I dedicated time to being with her, but at the same time, I needed to be Iron Man, and because she didn't like that, because we had to keep going, and we didn't want to stop, they ended up splitting up, and it all makes so much sense. So I was like, oh, that's weird, I wonder why Pepper's not going to be in this film, it doesn't make any sense, and I saw the film and I was like, that makes so much sense, and it makes Iron Man 3, the ending of Iron Man 3 and the beginning of Age of Ultron make more sense now as well, because we get, that's why Pepper didn't like the fact that he went back to being Iron Man again and wouldn't stop being Iron Man, because he didn't want to stop, so then put a wedge in their relationship and split them apart. Honestly, that's what's so great about this film, both Winter Soldier and this film. It just improves the other films, in my opinion. It just makes the others make more sense and makes them better. And also, going back onto the relationship and the back and forth between Cap and Tony, I love how they have that kind of connection there through Tony's father, because obviously Tony had that kind of uneasy relationship with his father. Kind of it's mentioned in Iron Man, and in Iron Man 2 as well, it's a big part of. And I love the callbacks to that. And of course, Cap knew Tony's dad when he was younger during the war. And I love how they have that connection there, and how it all makes so much sense now as well. Why Tony never got on with his dad, and why they had this uneasy relationship, because it was because of Cap. Tony, because we see in the first Avenger, Tony's dad knew Cap, and we get that line about how Tony's dad really admired and respected Cap and always went on about him and wouldn't shut up about him. And then it makes sense. That's why Tony and his dad never got on, because Tony was always really angry and annoyed that his dad was constantly going on about Captain America, and he never got the love and respect and admiration from his dad that his dad had for Cap, and so he always resented Cap growing up. And it makes it so much more kind of powerful there, because he even resented Cap and didn't like him long before he even knew him, and how then he got to know him and then realised that he was a good guy, and they got on, and now it's even more heartbreaking that they're splitting up. How they reference that, the relationship with his dad, that line that he says, oh, you don't know each other? You never mentioned that. Only about 1,000 times. God, I hated you. And it's like, oh, it's so great. And also, about these callbacks to past films, I think one thing a lot of people haven't really picked up on, of this thing about the relationship between Tony and his father, the uneasy relationship they had, and, you know, being connected to Cap through Cap and having his father. One thing I think people haven't picked up on is how it's a callback even to the very first Iron Man film. Even in the very first Iron Man film, just after he's come back from Afghanistan, he's holding that press conference, the first thing he says to everybody is, I never got to say goodbye to my dad. I never got to say goodbye to my father. And it's like, oh my god, because now it's all revealed in this film. We see the scene, we see that the fact that he never got to say that he loved his dad, he never got to say goodbye to him before he died. And it's all kind of interworked into the film, and it all just comes together, and it's just so great. Honestly, I think there's a lot of little things like that people might not pick up on. Callbacks and references to past films, and how it's been there since the very beginning in Iron Man 2, the whole relationship between Tony and his father, and how it all comes full circle here and all connects in a very kind of culminating yet heartbreaking way, and I think it was all just done so well. And of course, I've got to talk about the action sequences. As much as I love the characterization in this film and all the dialogue scenes, the action sequences are incredible. I've already talked about the opening battle, but one of my favourite action sequences in this film, aside from the amazing airport battle, has to be the one in which it starts off with Cap and Bucky fighting off the soldiers in the apartment block, and how it moves from there onto the rooftop and then down into the highway in the underground tunnel. And it's such a great fight scene. I think this may even be one of the best fight scenes in the film. I mean, you can't beat the airport battle for sheer entertainment, but this action sequence It's so incredible, and it's almost like 3 action sequences in one. We start with Cap and Bucky fighting off the soldiers in the apartment block in this almost raid-style fight, and it moves out onto the rooftops with the intervention of Black Panther, Bucky fighting Black Panther, and it moves down onto the highway and into this underground tunnel in which Bucky has been chased by Black Panther, has been chased by Captain America. It's such a great fight scene, how these 3 action sequences are all interconnected into one, and it's so great. And we've got the intervention of Black Panther there. It's such an awesome fight scene, and we get to see Black Panther in his vibranium suit, and that bit when the helicopter's just firing bullets, and he's just standing there looking at the helicopter. It's just so great. Yeah, and then Falcon just comes in and just kicks the helicopter and it goes spinning. I just absolutely love it. I love how Falcon's interworked that fight as well. It's like Cap's right hand man, he's there by his side, supporting him. And I also love the fact that even though all these special forces soldiers are there to assassinate Bucky, and then Cap just there fighting to protect him. He's there to save Bucky and to keep him alive, and he constantly keeps fighting to protect him and to keep him from being killed, essentially, from both the soldiers and Black Panther. And it's just such a great fight scene with the soldiers in the apartment, with Black Panther as well, and that whole chase is so great. It was just so cool seeing them running in the highway, and they're all like running fast in the cars, and it looks so great. And then we get that awesome moment when Bucky just grabs the passing motorcycle and spins it around midair and just jumps on it. Oh, such an awesome moment. It's probably one of my favourite moments in the film as far as action sequences go. It's just such a great moment and just such a cool shot as well. And then of course, I've got to talk about it, the airport battle. It's what everyone's been raving about, and rightly so, because it is such an amazing action sequence. Probably one of the best action sequences of any comic book movie of all time. It's that good. It's honestly, it's just like seeing a splash panel comic book fight from the comic books just brought to life on the big screen. It's just so great just seeing them all fighting together all at once. Some of my favourite specific moments from the scene. To start, we've got Scott Lang's introduction, which we see him being introduced to Captain America and the rest of Team Cap, and it's just such a great moment when Paul Rudd comes in there, and he's just such a funny guy. Just everything he says and does is funny, and it was just so great how they were able to interwork Ant-Man into it. And it is a little sudden, he just suddenly come out of nowhere, but it's a great moment there, seeing him like fanboying over Captain America, and he's kind of like us as the audience. He's like, oh my god, oh, this is great, this is so awesome. And it's so much fun to watch. And then of course we get Spider-Man's entrance into the fight, and from the get-go you're like, oh, that is Spider-Man, it's so great. Oh yeah, thanks. I got to start playing a little better, but we don't really need to start a conversation. Oh, okay. Cam, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone. Yeah, it's just so great, because a lot of the other heroes are very serious, don't talk that much, and then Spider-Man just constantly talking. And Falcon's like, yeah, I don't know if you've ever been in a fight before, but there's usually not this much talk. He's like, oh sorry, my bad. Because like I said before, Spider-Man is just this nerdy, excitable kid who's just having so much fun. He's just, happy to be there. Same with Ant-Man as well, and it's just so much fun to watch. And of course, all of the one-on-one fights we get Cap versus Spider-Man, we get Black Widow versus Ant-Man, we get Black Panther versus Winter Soldier. It's so many great one-on-one fights. But of course, the big talking point in this airport battle is the introduction of Giant Man. A lot of people have been really surprised and didn't expect it at all. I kind of saw it coming, because I was like, they're going to put Ant-Man in there, and it's this really big fight against all these really big, larger-than-life, powerful heroes. He kind of needs to be Giant Man in order to cause some serious damage and make an actual impact in this fight. As a Giant Man, he could do a lot more than when he's just tiny. But it was just such a great moment when he just becomes Giant Man. Spider-Man's like, holy shit! And he's like, oh! Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man and Giant Man just really stole the show. And of course we get so many other really cool moments as well, like Vision's entrance. We've got Team Cap all running to the Quinjet and then just like, Captain Rogers, I know that you believe what you're doing is right, but for the collective good, You must surrender now. Our Vision just makes his entrance into the fight, and the interventions by Vision and Scarlet Witch throughout the fight as well I thought were really well done, because they kind of had to underplay them both because they're so powerful. They could really both just stop the fight in an instant and that wouldn't be any fun at all because it'd be over in 2 seconds. So I like the fact that they were kind of underplayed and they didn't get as much to do as some of the other heroes because they are so powerful, they needed to hold them back. Otherwise, like I said, the fight would be over in 2 seconds. The interventions by Vision and Scarlet Witch here and there, like they kind of, like Vision, for instance, he is so powerful, he doesn't really want to hurt anyone, so he only intervenes when he actually really has to. That's how I saw it anyway, because even though he didn't play as big a part as everybody else, he only intervened in the fight when he felt it was deemed necessary, you know. And then the same with Scarlet Witch as well. And of course, going back onto Ant-Man, we get that classic shot from the comics, Ant-Man on Hawkeye's arrow, and how he flies into Iron Man's suit. That was a really funny moment as well. Like, I'm like, who's speaking? It's your conscience. Poor Rudd, he really knocked it out of the park. Even though he's only in that one scene, everyone's talking about him and yeah, Ant-Man and Giant Man, because he was just so memorable and so entertaining to watch in that sequence. And then of course we get Spider-Man's takedown of Giant Man and the Empire Strikes Back Star Wars reference, which I thought was really well interwoven into it. Hey guys, you ever seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back? Oh, Jesus, Tony, how old is this kid? Yeah, and it was still going out, he swinging around his legs and then he knocked him down. And of course, right at the end of the fight, we get the takedown of War Machine. You know, Vision accidentally shoots him out of the sky, because he's kind of distracted by his love for Scarlet Witch, if you will. I thought that was a great moment as well, because I was like, you saw it coming because it's in the trailers, but it was still a very kind of serious and powerful and dramatic moment that had weight to it, because in how it played out in the film, how it was kind of like by an accident, by Vision accidentally hitting War Machine and falling out of the sky. And then it was like, oh my god. And they're both flying down to try and catch him and they're just too late. And I like the fact that he wasn't killed off as well, because that would have been predictable. Why did they have to reveal that in the trailer? We pretty much knew he was going to die because they showed it in the trailer. So I'm glad they didn't kill him off. And he was paralysed instead. Which is kind of almost as bad. And a lot of people have argued that, oh my god, it didn't even kill anybody off. But I think it did have stakes. You know, yes, nobody died, but at the end of the day, yes, there are these two opposing sides fighting one another, but they're not out to kill one another. Maybe Black Panther is, so he's out to kill the Winter Soldier, but no one's there trying to kill each other. You know, at the end of the day, they're friends. Yes, they have these differences, and they're fighting one another because Tony's side believes one thing, Cap's side believes the other thing. And I like how the fight actually came about. It's not like, we're going to have a fight now. It's like, no, Team Cap are trying to get to the Quinjet, they're trying to leave to go somewhere, and Team Iron Man are like, no, we're not letting you leave, you're staying here, we're taking you in. So there was a scenario there was a situation, and that situation and that conflict led into the fight. The fight didn't just come out of nowhere, because I was thinking, how is this fight going to come about? But the situation that they created, and the scenario of how Team Cap wanted to leave and get out of there, and Team Iron Man wanted to keep them there and bring them in, and how that caused the fight to come about, that made so much sense as well. And like I said, going back onto how no one was killed, I think it still had weight to it, and it still had stakes, because, and like the Russos have said, if you killed someone off, it's kind of like, oh, it makes them all realise the error of their ways, and they'll all stop fighting, like, oh, what have we done? So I'm glad they didn't do that. And also, like I said, they're friends, they've got these differences, they're fighting over, but they don't want to kill each other, you know, so I didn't think it would have been necessary to kill anybody off. And also, they would have kind of screwed themselves over because they need to bring them back anyway for Infinity War. So I think Infinity War is going to be the one in which they're going to kill a lot of characters off. Okay, on to the last action sequence I'm going to be talking about, and that is the final battle. And what I really liked about this final action in the film, straight away from the get-go, is the fact that this whole Winter Soldier thing was a red herring. A lot of people are like, oh, why would they introduce that whole thing, waste time doing that, and then not pursue it? I'm like, that was the point. They were tricking us into thinking that was the way it was going to go, and in the end it was like a red herring, you know. And I like that, because everyone's like, oh, that's the way it's going to go, and we're expecting for them to team up to take on the Winter Soldiers, and then suddenly we see that they've all been shot and killed by Zemo. We're like, oh my god, what's going on here? And I love that, because it's refreshingly subversive in its third act, in its final battle. We're expecting it to go one way, and then there's these shocking, surprising twists and turns, and suddenly take it in this completely different directions, what we're not expecting, and I really like that, because it's something the Marvel films don't really do. They do get quite formulaic as they go into their final act. We get the final battle, which we've kind of seen so many times before, something big falling from the sky, then the world being threatened, the Avengers, the heroes fighting to protect the world, to destroy the villain. And this, we get something completely different. We get the Avengers being turned against one another, and we get this much smaller and more personal fight between the Avengers themselves, between Cap and Tony and Bucky, that the villain instigates and gets them to turn against one another and to fight each other. And I really like that, because they could have so easily gone down the route of them teaming up and taking on the Winter Soldiers. They could have so easily done that, and I thought that was what was going to happen. I thought it was going to involve them teaming up at the end, taking on the bad guys, and the fact that they didn't do that, and it was a red herring just to trick us and to just veer us off what was actually going to happen. I think that was just so well done. And this final action sequence in the film, as much as I like the other action sequences, as great as the airport battle is, I think this may be the best action sequence in the film because of how personal it is. The airport battle is so incredibly fun and entertaining, but this battle at the end of the film, I think, is the best action sequence because it's the most emotionally powerful and impactful to watch. It is really hard-hitting from an emotional standpoint. It's really impactful in that way, and I really like that because it's these characters that are being, turned against one another and are fighting one another, and it is a battle to the death because, Tony is out for blood against the Winter Soldier. He's had to avenge his parents. He's had to kill this guy, and Cap's standing between them. He's like trying to protect his friend, but he's also trying to protect Iron Man because he doesn't want Iron Man to kill his friend. Not just because it's his best friend that he's trying to protect, but he doesn't want Iron Man to go that far and to do something he's going to regret, to actually kill someone. So he's kind of like fighting to protect them both, in a way. He's fighting to protect his long life childhood friend from being killed. He's fighting to protect his new friend from going too far and becoming a murderer. And it's just such a powerful, impactful fight there between the two of them at the end. Because we so understand where they're coming from. Like I said, even though I'm not on Team Iron Man, we so get where Tony's coming from. It's such a powerful moment there when Tony sees Bucky killing his parents, and we just see the expression on his face and how he reacts, and how he reacts to Cap, and the fact that Cap knew about it and has kept it from him, and how he just lets all this suppressed emotion out and just releases all this emotion and anger that he's just bottled up over the years, and he just lets it all out, and it's this fury of blinded, pure rage and anger because he's out to just avenge his parents and to kill the man responsible, and he just doesn't care. And we just so get it because we don't want Tony to kill Bucky. We know that Bucky's innocent, that he wasn't brainwashed, and he couldn't control himself. But at the same time, we just so get where Tony's coming from. He just saw his parents, who he fought down in a car crash. He just sees them being brutally murdered by the Winter Soldier, not just shot. He brutally kills them with his bare hands, and Tony sees that on his videotape. Like I said, he's been in a very emotionally unstable character over these films, and this is the point that it's all been leading to. It's a great fight, but more than that, it feels earned, because it feels like such a natural and emotional culmination to everything that's come before. But then you also feel for Cap as well, because Cap's fighting to protect Bucky, who's his lifelong childhood friend, who he knows is innocent, who he knows was brainwashed by the enemy, and he didn't mean to do those things. He couldn't control himself, and he's fighting to protect him and to keep him alive and to keep him from harm. And it's just such a powerful fight for that reason, because they've both got these very clear motivations as to why they're fighting, as to why Iron Man wants to kill Bucky, why Cap wants to protect Bucky, and we get that clash, and it just works so incredibly well. As fun as the airport battle is, the stakes are even higher in this fight, because you really get a feeling and a sense like someone could kill each other here. Iron Man could kill the Winter Soldier. Iron Man could kill one another. I mean, you get that, obviously, Bucky getting his arm blown off by Iron Man. He's almost killed. Cap gets beaten down first, and then he's just like, I could do this all day. Another great callback to the very first Captain America film. And of course, then he beats Iron Man down and then destroys his arc reactor with his shield. And then we get that great moment at the very end of the fight. Iron Man's like, you don't deserve that shield. It doesn't belong to you. My father made that shield. And it's like, whoa, you get it. Like, he's got a point. It's not really Cap's shield. It's Tony's dad made that shield, and Cap knows, and he's like, okay, fair enough, and he just drops the shield. He just rejects the whole Captain America identity in essence. He drops the shield, he's like, forget it, I don't care about my legacy, I don't care about being Captain America anymore, because I want to protect my friend, I want to keep her from harm, and that's more important to me than being Captain America. Forget it, you can have the shield, take it back, I want to keep my friend alive, I'm going to protect him. And it's like, so great. I can't wait to see what's going to happen now going forward. Of course, we get the mid-credit scene of Bucky being put into cryo freeze in Wakanda, and it's great how kind of T'Challa's come full circle now, and he's now working with Cap, and I was like, yes, because I always want to see Cap and Black Panther working together, two of my favourite characters. And we see Black Panther's kind of like realise the errors of his ways, and he's like, your friend and my father, they were both victims. If I can help one of them find peace. And then I kind of wait to see how this is going to lead into Black Panther. If we're going to see the Winter Soldier and Black Panther working together in the Black Panther film, who knows? And also how this is going to go into Avengers Infinity War, because the film ends with the Avengers divided. They're separated on these two sides now. We got Tony and his government-approved Avengers, and we got Cap and his what looks to be now secret Avengers living underground, on the run from the authorities, it seems. Fugitives from the government. But what I don't know is how Ant-Man's role in this film is going to affect Ant-Man and the Wasp, because we know we're going to have Ant-Man and the Wasp, is it what, next year, or 2017 or 2018, and he's kind of like a fugitive now. He's part of Cap's secret Avengers on the run from the authorities, living underground, so I don't know how he's going to go back to his own solo film now that he's a fugitive from the government, on the run from the authorities. I don't really know how it's going to work, but who knows, I'm sure they'll find a way of, making that work. And also Zemo isn't killed off, which I really like, because I think it would be great to see him come back as the classic Baron Zemo from the comics with the mask, and I think this is a great setup and introduction for his character, to see him then come back in another film, maybe in the beginning of Infinity War, before Thanos arrives, before the invasion begins. Maybe we could begin with the Masters of Evil, who knows? It'd be great to see Daniel Bruhl back as Baron Zemo, leading a Masters of Evil team. How awesome would that be? We'd have like Abomination on there as well. So I'd be surprised if they do a Masters of Evil led by Baron Zemo in the near future at some point, maybe before Infinity War actually begins, who knows? But yeah, overall, that's what I've got to say about Captain America Civil War. I had surprisingly a lot to say. I thought I only really had stuff to say about Spider-Man and Zemo, and it turns out I had so much to talk about. As I was writing my notes, I was like, oh my god, this is going to take ages. But there was so many cool things that I wanted to talk about in regard to this film that I wasn't able to touch upon in my spoiler-free review. Like I said, if you want to know my spoiler-free thoughts on the film overall, and what I thought about the film in general, be sure to check out my spoiler-free review. There'll be an annotation into this video, I'll put a link down below. Also, I saw X-Men Apocalypse recently. I saw that the other night, and I'll be doing a review for that at some point. I want to kind of get all these Captain America Civil War Marvel videos out of the way first. I want to do a ranking the MCU video first, where I kind of rank all of the films in the MCU in order from best to worst. I wanted to do that video first, and then I was going to do another X-Men video before I get around to doing my X-Men Apocalypse review. I may wait and just talk about it in my monthly film roundup at the end of the month, or I may do a separate review just for the film. I'm not sure yet, I haven't made up my mind. As far as Captain America Civil War goes, what were some of your favourite moments in the film? Let me know down below, I'd love to know. And if you like this video, make sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.